So the pin that holds your tailgate latch just broke off. I'm gonna show you how to replace it really quick, really easy, and I wish I would have known this years ago because these seem to break off quite often. It's this little pin that goes through and kind of makes a T, and that's what you're able to kind of use the latch to latch onto this part here. So mine is broken. This is an older one I have here, and I'm gonna show you how to replace it. So it's completely up to you whether or not you want to replace the spring. The old spring seems to stay in there pretty well into the trailer frame, so you can keep that one in there. It might be easier for you to not have to wrestle around with the spring. But if you do want to replace the spring, you'll need to take out the spring first, or I should say second. Once you get that pin out, once you pull that pin out, you'll need to pull this spring out from underneath and put your new spring up in there from underneath before you even want to slide the pin in, the new pin in. So I'm going to keep this spring as a backup and leave that old spring in there. It's actually a new spring. These pins, these latches, these pins and these latches seem to break quite often. So that is a new spring in there. That's a new pin in there and new latch, and it's broke already. So I believe you can kind of tap these out. You can tap out these old pins that are in there. I haven't tried that out, and maybe even drill. I think you can maybe even drill them out, but I haven't messed with that. I don't plan on messing with that, so that's just a heads up. All right, so I'm taking the new pin here. It's got a new hole there, as you guys can see, the white, and you just slide it on through. I'll try to get you're just gonna go in here, slide it all the way through. You wanna make sure that the spring is on the outside of your latch there. You have to get the hole lined up wherever you need it, okay? It's really hard to get the pin in down here, where it should be. That's where you want it finally resting, that pin that kind of makes a T. That's where you want it finally resting. You want it all the way up against where it latches into your tailgate. But it's really hard to get the pin in there and then hammer it in there. So what I do is I back it up to about right there in the middle. And what I'll do is I won't be able to get this on camera, but what I'll do is I'll stick the pin in here, even though it's not all the way flush with this. It's not all the way flush with this, up against this bracket, this mounting bracket here. But I'll get the pin in, and what I'll do is I'll thread it. I'll thread it in there, and then boom, by the time it rests, it'll be right there, and I'll thread it through the spring. So I'll try to get it on video. There's the hole right there, so I'm gonna back it out even more to about right there. And if it's easier for you, you might be able to kind of cheat this a little bit by squeezing this end, one of the ends, with the with like a pair of pliers. I'll show you what I mean by that. You can just get you a little pair of pliers like this. So I just squeezed it a little bit. See that? Instead of it being open all the way through, I got that end squeezed. So that kind of helps you out a little bit to get it started. And I'll try to get this on video, because this is tough right here too. So you want it sticking out about, a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other, even on both sides. And right now it's sticking out more my way, so I'm gonna go ahead and tap it in a little bit more. And you gotta be really careful when you guys are tapping this pin in, because it's really easy, it breaks really easily. And so if you're too hard on it, you could bend or break this pin before you even use it. So be really easy going in with it. That's why I say you can kind of squeeze one side and make it a little bit easier. That way you kind of have something to get started in the hole, and that way you can tap it all the way through. But when you're tapping it through, you gotta be very careful to not break it, and you want a little bit sticking out on each side. And I'll kind of show you what I mean here. Sticking out a little bit on one side, see? Looks like my spring got stuck on one of my pins here, so I'm gonna have to get a flathead and get that off of there. So that's the idea of it. You just want to get that pin somewhere halfway, and then you can just thread it all the way to the end up against that mounting bracket. So I hope this helps. I hope that you guys can understand that demonstration. It's kind of hard to get it on film there, but that's the easiest way I found to replace these latches. And like I said, they're always breaking, and it's just this pin. So if you guys are able to drill out this old pin, you might be okay. And you know, you just have to get a lot more of the little pins. But this latch here, this is pretty heavy duty. You won't have any problems with this. It's just that whatever kind of thin metal that little cotter pin is, we'll call it the cotter pin. Whatever that cotter pin is, it's just not made out of the toughest metal, so it just rusts and breaks off on there.